Good evening, everyone. I am Brian Ko from CRI Asset, also your program director for A Plus Startups, and I'm here to talk about scale ups. Before I start my talk, we want to share a video regarding who A Plus is.
As we move forward with the challenges brought by the pandemic, opportunity rises. People show resiliency through continuous innovations that paves the way for new ideas, concepts, and inventions, all of which manifest our willingness to not only survive, but to be better than before. Surpass this huge wave into a brighter tomorrow. That is where A Plus Startups comes in. A Plus Startups is a hybrid accelerator program that is dedicated to supporting scaling up and market entry of startups through strategic partnership and innovative development. We have more than a decade of valuable experience in spearheading growth, cultivating businesses, and managing investments. We have thrived across different industries in Taiwan and the Southeast Asian region, an opportunity we can offer to those who deserve to be known in the international scene. A Plus Startups is the brainchild of CRI Asset and KMXK Investments. CRI Asset has spent years in helping its clients enter the Philippine market, while KMXK Investments has been very active in investing its resources across the Southeast Asian region. They both have the qualities to elevate any form of business, and they strongly believe that it is high time to create a program that can offer assistance and support to the Filipino entrepreneurs to go global. As the world enters post-pandemic economic recovery, we believe that the synergy built through collaborative partnership, problem-solving innovations, and intentional investments will help the startups accelerate their recovery and create the momentum for growth. A Plus Startups is not just an ordinary program. It is designed to increase productivity and profitability of the startup. This attracts and encourages our key partners and stakeholders to further support startups who are in need of resources to accelerate their growth. Resources such as talent, expertise, capital, and customers. We believe that the A Plus Startup program has what it takes to provide these resources and, more importantly, share our vast network in the different industries worldwide. So what does A Plus Startups has to offer? A Plus is an intensive 12-week program that provides startups with mentorship from industry experts, workshops and exercises to improve founders' technical and soft skills, capacity building and business design for scaling up, and networking opportunities that is essential for market entry. These allows the program to dig deep into the business and create a solid foundation as it grows. Though A Plus Startups is open to all kinds of startup businesses, there are certain types that we are looking for to start with. If you are a startup in the following industries: edutech, e-commerce, fintech, health tech, medtech, and food tech, then you are definitely what we are eyeing for. There is hope for those who strive. We just need to join hands and work together in order for the economy to bounce back. These hard times is when heroes emerge. Those who refuse to give up. Those who don't stop creating, trying, pushing boundaries to come up with something that can be part of the future. Be one of them. Join us. Be part of the A Plus Startups.
We know everyone wants to be big because most of the time, bigger means better. But in order to be big, you must scale up, right? Now, you ask me, what does scaling up means? Scaling up is scary. There are a lot of factors that needs to be considered. Usually, you find yourself asking, is my product ready? Do I have enough funds? What are the risks of scaling up? More importantly, you ask yourself, am I ready? The best answer to this question actually came from a 12-year-old in Singapore named Dylan Song. It is called the Song of Try. It goes like this: if I don't try, I won't know. If I don't know, my fear will grow. So I must try, then I'll know. For when I know, my fear will go. Hearing the wise words from this young man, the best way is just try. But before trying to scale up, you must know if your startup is actually scalable. Why? Because the most common cause of failure by startups trying to scale up is scaling up startups that are not actually scalable. Founders usually fall into the trap of bigger sales equals you are already ripe for expansion. Having bigger sales doesn't always mean you are ready. For example, one of the companies in our pipeline had huge sales over the past years. They had a great product, but they failed during the scaling up process. So, what are the signs that you are ready to scale up? Remember these two words, sustainability and predictability. Studies shows that businesses that have a sustainable product and a predictable profit have a higher chance of achieving success during scale up. Contrary to the popular belief, the best product doesn't always win. It is the product that is sustainable. Also, huge windfalls of profits is good, but continuous and predictable profits is even better. Consistency is key. Scaling up is not just about moving up the numbers as fast as you can. It is not as simple as having the best product in the market, a great founder, or a winning system. It is about these different factors working together to propel the startup to a level of sustainable success. Most founders take great pride in doing everything from conceptualization, production, sales, sourcing of funds, and all the other things that comes along with running a startup. Because of these, they also have a hard time asking for help. But the truth is, they need help. You need help, especially in scaling up. That's the great thing here in the Philippine startup ecosystem. There are plenty of help to go around. A Plus Startups is actually one of them. We help startups scale up and expand to new markets. So, how do we help startups scale up? First, we help you find the right partner. This could be in the form of building your core team, another co founder, or a startup accelerator. We will help you fulfill your vision through careful planning and execution. Second, we will help you create a culture of excellence. Quoting Jim Collins' book, Good to Great, if you want to go from good to three times good, you have to have disciplined people engaged in disciplined thought who creates disciplined actions. You will have the challenge of creating a culture of excellence that is scalable on all fronts of your startup. Third, we will help you develop a sustainable winning system. As you grow, managing through line of sight is becoming impossible. From sales to CRM to finance, your startup must have a system that is easily replicable and can sustain growth. Last but not the least, we will help you generate funding. With the deep network of connections that we have established over the years, through our partners CRI Asset and KMXK Investment, we will get you the most suitable investors for your startup. Let's face it, businesses need money. It is the fuel for growth. Money might not be the end goal of most startups, but it certainly helps reach your destination. To sum it all up, here in A Plus, we get to leverage our resources to help you make your product more sustainable, create a culture of excellence, develop a winning system, and get the necessary funding to sustain your growth. Asking for help is a strength, not a weakness. Let us help you reach your goals by giving you the support that you deserve. Scaling up is never easy. It is a necessary discomfort that startups must endure. Real growth is realized by stepping out of your comfort zone. Speaking of moving outside your comfort zone, exploring new frontiers is another thing startups must face. It is my pleasure to turn over our main speaker, Mr. Paulo Lising of Startup in Taiwan. He is here to talk about redefining opportunities for Filipino founders beyond borders. He is a Filipino who is already very successful in Taiwan with his startups venture. He is a testament of success for startups who went out and entered new markets. Thank you very much. Cut.
Hi, Brian. Hi, everyone at Philippine Startup Week. I'm Paulo Leasing, founder of StartupInTaiwan.com. I'm actually broadcasting from Taiwan right now. And let me just share you my screen as for the presentation today. Uh, so, for today's presentation, I'll be talking about Spotlight Taiwan, redefining Filipino founders' opportunities beyond borders. So, what it means is that Filipino founders could actually look into the neighboring countries as part of growing your startup. And Taiwan is particularly a good country to start in. For one, it's close. It's actually a 2.5 hours away flight from Manila. But for today's session, what you will learn are some of the reasons why you should build your startup in Taiwan, or at least find a connection from of your startup from the Philippines to here in Taiwan. Then I'll talk about the key trends for collaboration. We'll talk about the opportunities for Filipino startups, that is from the government grants as well as the private sector support. I will also talk about a startup which I am building here, which is called StartupInTaiwan.com, which is a founder, which is actually a platform to help Filipino founders come to Taiwan. And then lastly, I'll talk a little bit about myself and my journey here in Taiwan. So let's begin. Why Taiwan? The only one of the key reasons why you should build or connect to Taiwan, as far as your startups is concerned, is that Taiwan is actually a favorable market conditions. Excuse me. For one, the GDP of Taiwan is expected to be at 5.8% in 2021. That would be the fastest growth in the last 10 years. Taiwan is also the 13th as far as the GDP per capita ranking worldwide is concerned. And it is the 15th largest global exporter, driven by the global demand for electronics. It's also known to be the best place for expats. In a recent survey by Internation, Taiwan is actually ranked first in terms of the overall quality of life, and many people here, even I could assure you that this is safe and sound for living. Um, Taiwan is also known to be the tech hub of Asia, having most of the big brands of tech here in Taiwan. For example, we have Asus, where I used to work for, doing digital marketing. We have HTC, and we also have Acer. But I guess if some of you are holding an iPhone or a Mac user, TSMC is actually the one that produces all these gadgets for you. Taiwan is also known to be or to have a vast pool of talents. For one, there's a lot of universities in Taiwan that are ranking top of the world ranks within the top 100. One of which is the National Taiwan University, where I graduated from. Um, and this is also the reason why Google has actually built the second largest headquarters here outside the US headquarters. And as I mentioned earlier, Taiwan is actually just 2.5 hours away from Manila by flight. And if you're looking at your screens right now, you can see that some of the Taiwanese Aborigines have some sort of resemblance and similarities in culture compared to the Philippines Ifugaos. And now we can talk about the trends. So over the years, you can see that there's an increasing number of foreigners in Taiwan. And as of 2021, we can imagine that there's going to be about 1 million foreigners who are coming to Taiwan to reside. Uh, and the interesting statistics is that Before the pandemic, there's actually a growth in the number of foreign investment applications. That is the number of startups that are building here in Taiwan. Because of this, the government is actually seeing that it could leverage these foreigners to help Taiwan become even a tech hub in Asia. And so they actually relax some of the policies that would help them attract more foreign direct investments. The first one is the tax incentives that they give to investors in industries such as the AI, IoT, AR, VR, and the biomedical industry. And for those of you who want to come to Taiwan, the government has actually relaxed the visa rules for startup founders. And if you have a startup, the government also provides grants and subsidies. Let's now talk about the Taiwan Entrepreneur Visa. This is basically on the second point of the previous slide, which talks about the relaxation of the rules, allowing more foreigners to come here. So, the Taiwan Entrepreneur Visa is basically a 1 year visa that will allow you to set up your business in Taiwan once you land here. So, you can basically uh, apply from abroad. And then when you come to Taiwan with your entrepreneur visa, you could explore on how you could set up your company. So it's basically a visa that allows you multiple entry for 1 year. You could extend this visa based on the performance of your startup. For example, if your startup is um, records a revenue of 3 million NT, or if you've hired some local Taiwanese to be part of your team. And there are many other points that you could actually get to renew your entrepreneur visa. And for the entrepreneur visa, you can actually apply for up to three of your members, including yourself, together in one application. And then the next visa policy that Taiwan has done recently is the Taiwan Gold Card. So basically, Taiwan Gold Card is a combined visa, work permit, and residence permit. This also allows you to stay for 1 year and even up to 3 years. Basically, when you are holding a gold card, you don't need to apply for a work permit if you want to work for companies here. You don't need to you don't need a company sponsoring you, and you could also use this to build your startup here in Taiwan. If you want to know if you actually qualify for the Taiwan Gold Card, you can actually use the camera on your phone to scan the QR code that we have on the screen for now. So the next slide talks about the permanent residence. So most of the foreigners who come here and stay for a minimum of 5 years continuously working, like I did, would get an APRC. An APRC allows you to stay in Taiwan for as long as you want, basically with multiple entries. It acts as your work permit, so you don't need another company to sponsor you when you come here. It will also allow you to start your own company without that requirement of having a huge capital. For the information of the Filipino founders, if you don't hold an APRC or you don't have a gold card, when you start a company, you are required to put up around 500,000 NT in capital so that you could hire or sponsor yourself. But if you have an APRC or the previous one, which is a gold card, then you actually don't need to have that much capital. So the next slide is all about the opportunities for Filipino startups. And this is basically talking about the grants that the government could give. The grants that the government offers comes from one pool of funds from the national government, but there's one flow of grants that's given specifically to startups uh, who are listed or registered here in Taipei. For example, the city government provides up to 1 million for startups that are located in Taipei, and these are And this is for new startups that are less than 1 year old. So the other one could be a 5 million NT grant given to those who are doing research and development related startups also within Taipei. The grant could actually cover for your salary, the salary of your researchers, employees. You could also use the grant for equipment purchase as well as for the rent of your laboratory or your office. Then on the national pool, Taiwan is actually providing a research and development grant, which is offered by the Service Industry Innovation Research. And it basically encourages entrepreneurs with innovative capabilities and global potential to grow rapidly here. So the grant could be as big as 10 million NT. And this is for companies that are legally registered in Taiwan but not including branch office. So what it means is that if you have a startup, say in the Philippines, and you want to access this 10 million grant, then all you need to do is probably come to Taiwan, probably with an entrepreneur visa, or if you get a gold card, then lucky you, then start your company here and apply for the 10 million grant. So what's exciting about Taiwan is that the government also built a lot of prototyping laboratories. This is basically related to IoT labs, uh, which is provided by Taiwan's Industrial Technology Research Institute. So what you could do is you could email them, and if you want the link, I could share it later after this presentation. Email them with the specs of a, let's say, a machine that you want this office to uh, build as a prototype, and they will do it for you. You don't need to come to Taiwan to access these prototyping facilities. As I mentioned, you can just email them, and even before they start building your prototype, they would ensure that your IP is protected by signing some non-disclosure agreement, as well as uh, ad- accepting you as the owner of a specific project. Oops, next slide. So we talked about the number of accelerators that are actually growing in Taiwan. So as Brian mentioned, A plus startups is also trying to be in the space as far as the Taiwan ecosystem is concerned. And not only A plus startups, you also see big names such as Techstars and 500 startups, which is now 500 global, both of which are big in Silicon Valley. And apart from that, you also see a lot of local accelerators who are helping startups grow in Taiwan. And these local accelerators, at least most of them, are partly government sponsored accelerators. And now I will talk about startupintaiwan.com. So as I have, you can see that I've been here in Taiwan for 12 years, and I've seen that the startup ecosystem is growing. And so I thought of coming up with a website called startupintaiwan.com. It's basically a Wikipedia and Yelp for foreigners who are starting a business here in Taiwan. So it started with a book that I've written back in 2019, which is now an online version that allows any foreigners, Filipinos, could come in and read that guidebook for starting a business here in Taiwan. So, on top of that book, I added a directory of service providers who offer exclusive discounts. So, let's say you need a lawyer, you need an accountant, you need a co working space when coming here in Taiwan, then you can actually look into the directory of the service providers that we have enlisted on our site. We've launched in September 1st, and so far we've just of this year, and so far we have 180 members, and we have already signed up with 16 partner agencies who provide discounts to our members. And as of today, they have or we have given them a savings of up to 5,500 US dollars in total savings. Of all these are from the clients who've transacted within our site as of today. So as I mentioned earlier, this site actually came about from the book that I have written in 20. Where are we now? We are in 2021. In 2020, which is called Startup Taiwan Foreigners Business Guide. This book was actually read by some of the government officials here in Taiwan, including the Digital Minister of Taiwan, Audrey Tang. What I did was convert it online and added more information to it to make it evergreen for anyone who wishes to start a business here in Taiwan. And now I'll talk a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, I've been here in Taiwan for quite a long time, 12 years. I came here 12 years ago to take my MBA at the National Taiwan University. But before that, I was a journalist back home. I was with Business World, covering the central bank. I was with Financial Times, editing for the UK's online version of the newspaper. I have been trying my best to enter the startup community since I came to Taiwan. But before that, I was also working for listed tech companies, including ASUS. And Startup Taiwan Foreigners Business Guide is not the first book that I've written. I've written a book before that, which is called Cyberpreneur Philippines Online Business Startup Guide, which I co wrote with other founders back in the Philippines. And it was actually a finalist at the National Books Award. And with that, I am all inviting you to try out the my website, startuptaiwan.com. And if you want a free access to this website, for those of you who want to, explore co- working or at least starting your business here in Taiwan, you could actually get free 6 months access to that website if you register within November of this year. All you need to do is um, scan the QR code. And with that, I will open the questions for everyone. Brian?
Thank you for the wonderful talk, Paolo. Um, I just have a few questions for you.
Sure.
What would your message be to those who are hesitant to try to expand to Taiwan? I know many people have thought about doing businesses or expanding to other countries, but are really hesitant to cross over because of a number of reasons. How do you help them or tell them how to defeat that fear?
Well, I guess as if you're a startup founder, one of the key things that you need to remember to be successful is to be able to take risk and be ready to do what you needed to do to grow your company. And the reason why I am trying to push Taiwan to be one of the options to grow your company is that Taiwan actually offers a lot for foreigners. And if you want to grow, for example, if you want to build prototypes, you can actually come here to expand or to actually build your prototypes faster than others could do. For example, back in the Philippines, because of the technology that Taiwan has to offer.
That is one great advantage. Uh, are there any best practices that you could suggest in moving to or expanding to Taiwan?
Well, that's a really good question. I think even before you consider Taiwan, you should also, because this is basically a talk mostly for the Filipino startup founders. And let me pull it back to the key strength of the Philippine startup ecosystem. Our strength is in the number of consumers for the products that we are going to build. And Taiwan's strength is in the technology that will enable to serve this kind of big market. So to answer your question, I guess one key advice is to make sure that you are addressing a key concern or key problem of your main consumers, which I assume would be the Philippines first. For example, try to look for some problems that are happening in the Philippines, and think of how you could solve that, and then come to Taiwan and build a technology that will basically address that concern faster than if you would build it in the Philippines.
Thank you for those wonderful insights, Paulo. Um, so for all the founders who are interested in scaling up, doing market entry in different countries like Taiwan, join the A Plus Startup Program. Please visit our booth and you can download our application form there and you can see our FAQs and our process on how to apply to the A Plus Startup Accelerator Program. Thank you very much and good night.